Hello, this slide will be about abuse. So we'll go right into it now. So what abuse is, it's the purposeful mistreatment that causes physical, mental, or emotional pain or injury to somebody. Okay, so that's what the definition of abuse is. There are a lot of different forms or kinds of abuse: physical abuse, psychological abuse, verbal abuse, sexual, neglect, exploitation, financial abuse, assault, battery, domestic violence, workplace violence, false imprisonment, involuntary seclusion, and sexual harassment. So there's a lot of different types of or kinds of things that fall into this abuse category that we need to be aware of. Some examples of abuse are yelling obscenities, threatening to hurt others, um, hitting or causing physical pain to the resident, or just not taking care of them is another example. Not doing what you're supposed to be doing for that patient or that resident. So the first one we're going to talk about is negligence or neglect. What neglect is, it is the failure to provide needed care that results in either physical, mental, or emotional harm to a person. These are actions that we fail to do. So we're failing to act or provide the proper care for a patient, and it results in some type of injury or mistreatment, okay? An example would be a nursing assistant or someone who's helping transfer the patient, and they don't lock the wheelchair before transferring them into it, and the patient or the resident falls and is injured, by not offering them fresh water often, um, by not following the directions in the care plan. That can all be a huge part of neglect. So what causes abuse or neglect or any type of endangerment to happen? A lot of the causes that we see are from a lack of training. People just don't know what to do or how to do it properly. They've either pushed through training too fast. They weren't focused when they were in training. They weren't paying attention. Those are all a huge. That's a huge part of why abuse or neglect happen. Short staffing. We all know in the medical field that there's just not enough of us there working to help the patients to make sure everything's going the way that it should. So short staffing, there higher burnout rate. People are become impatient. You can only do so much as one person. So short staffing can contribute to that. People with violent temperaments. We all probably know somebody that is quick to become angry. They don't have a lot of patience. And when you see somebody that's like that, in the medical field, we need to have patience. We need to be able to control our emotions because we're not always treated the way, that we should. People aren't always grateful for the care that we're giving them, whether it's drawing their blood or whether it's taking care of them by giving them showers or different things of that nature. So, it's important that you're able to control your emotions. Another contribution to abuse would be inadequate administrative supervision. So this means that the employees are not being supervised. So employees are able to do whatever they want to do, and that may include, unfortunately, abuse or neglect happening. And then hazardous conditions in the facilities environment. So people not getting along, teamwork not taking place. All these different things can contribute to abuse. So what's important about abuse is how we report it. So it's really important that you know that if abuse is reported to you, you have suspicions that somebody is being abused, that you have to report it. It is not an option, it is the law. I cannot highlight that enough. Most importantly, it's good to know that when you report it, you're potentially stopping harm from happening to this person. This is important. As soon as you hear it, you report it. You don't wait. You don't think about it. If you believe somebody's being abused, you've been told by somebody they're being abused, it's important that you report this. So if this is one of your patients. All right, so we're talking about the healthcare setting right now. It's important that you follow a chain of command. So what you're going to do is when you're at work, once again, this is where this what we're talking about when it comes to abuse here is you're going to first tell your charge nurse. So for some reason, the charge nurse is not available. You don't feel comfortable going to the charge nurse, then you would go to the nursing supervisor. From there, you would then go to the abuse coordinator if none of those are available. So you always just want to follow the chain of command when reporting abuse. Say you report abuse. You know somebody's being abused. You've reported it, but you feel that the facility did not take appropriate action. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. You can call the state abuse hotline. It's an anonymous call. It's for typically for elderly patients or patients with special needs, somebody that's not of their own self that can report this and let them know about the potential abuse. However, once again, I cannot say this enough. You should follow the chain of command. Make sure that you've told your abuse coordinator, your charge nurse, your nursing supervisor about the potential abuse that you want to report. And then they are the ones that are going to do the investigating. So we'll get into this here in a little bit more, but they will investigate it and come to a conclusion on whether that abuse is actually taking place. Sometimes that means they contact the police department to come investigate as well. So know that just because you don't see an investigation taking place doesn't mean that it's not happening. A lot of times things happen that you might not see. So just be aware of that. So I always encourage that the state abuse hotline is sort of like a last resort thing you go to. Always follow up with your abuse coordinator if you have questions, or your charge nurse or nursing supervisor about what you reported. Um, in the chance, or if the situation occurs where something's life or death, somebody is being hurt and it's not going to stop, they could potentially die from this abuse. You want to make sure the very first thing you do is get that patient or that resident to a safe place if possible, and have someone go get help. Do not leave the resident alone, okay? So that's sort of if it's a life or death situation, that's when you'll make immediate interaction to make sure that that patient is safe. So how the process of investigating abuse. So it's a little bit different, just sort of depending on where the abuse is taking place, by whom it's taking place, and a few different factors. The first thing I want to talk about is this is typically we're going to talk about a nursing home. A lot of times, the people that are the most susceptible to abuse are going to be children, elderly adults, especially those with dementia and Alzheimer's, and then those with special needs as well. They are going to be the most susceptible. A lot of times they don't have their own voice. They're not able to speak up. When they do speak up, it's attributed to other things such as their dementia, Alzheimer's, or special needs, or whatever it may be. But the Department of Public Health is responsible for investigating all incidences that occur in nursing homes. So that's the first thing we're going to talk about. So the investigation is going to take place internally within the facility. Then from there, they are going to, if need be, take it further onto the state, and the Department of Public Health will continue the investigation. When criminal activity is suspected, the police may also investigate. Once again, it is not your job to investigate. It is your job and the law for you to report it. All right, they will do the investigation. The whole purpose of the investigation is to determine if abuse, endangerment, neglect, any type of abuse has actually taken place, and then any recommendations for corrective action or enforcement. And that can be, once again, the facility. It can be the police if they've been contacted by the Department of Public Health when it comes to deciding any action needs to take. So what are the penalties for abuse? It really just depends. So Department of Public Health will investigate the facility and misdoing. There could be fines, sanctions, a disciplinary action may occur to the facility. When it comes to the person that's actually the one who abused the patient, they can be fined, obviously terminated from their job. They can be criminally found guilty of some form of abuse or violence. and they can have their certification revoked or taken from them, as far as if they have any different type of certifications, licenses, anything of that nature. Now, I'm just going to touch base on some other facilities or other places you may potentially work and how they investigate abuse. It tends to be very similar. The number one thing I always tell you is you will always, always, always report any suspected abuse of a patient to your supervisor. So, say you work in an outpatient facility and you come in and you have a patient come in who um, dirty, doesn't smells, and they have a caregiver taking care of them. You know, they have bruises that look like it could be potential abuse. Definitely let your nurse, your supervisor, whoever it may be, know about this. Same thing in the hospital. You notice somebody mistreating a patient, family member, a caregiver, another potential employee or visitor. Always, 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 your number one thing is to let your supervisor know, and they will help handle it from there. A lot of times, social work will come in and help as well when it comes to hospitals, outpatient centers, and such. So, what we have for the rest of this slide is there's going to be 4 videos for you to watch. You will have to write a paper on one of these 4 videos, so it's important that you watch all 4. They are about different kinds of abuse. They're real life situations. They are on the news for the abuse that took place. So just, a warning, just to be prepared. You are going to see some type of, whether it be financial, physical abuse, or neglect even. They're important for you to see because unfortunately this happens more than people know, more than people believe that they really happen. So it's good to hear about them. It's good to think about them for the fact that we know what to look for when patients maybe say things or something's happening with a patient. You have an idea of maybe why they're reacting the way they are, why they're upset. Things just to look out for. It gives you a different perspective. So please watch all 4 and then follow the instructions for the assignment on the abuse paper you need to turn in. All right, so the next 4 slides, just go through and watch those videos. All right, thank you.